And I graduated with my master's. It was crazy timing because it was June 2020, so I finished my last few months with the transition of COVID, and it was which is wild to think about now that I've never, as a licensed clinician in the field, I've never worked in person. It's always been remote. But I knew I wanted to get into private practice, and so I was looking at, other jobs as well. I worked at a treatment center. It's a great way to get a lot of hours, but I wanted to have eventually that private practice experience. So in the meantime, I was like, okay, let me see if I can get an associate position at a practice. And I was specifically looking for someone who had experience working with eating disorders, because I think that was right around the time after I had gone through. It's interesting because, again, I really felt like I was going to do family therapy and not work with eating disorders. And in my experience going through my graduate school courses, whenever we would learn about eating disorders, I learned that most of the clinicians had no idea how to work with it. It was something that they could not comprehend themselves. They were like, I just don't get it. I can't relate to it. I don't understand how someone could do this or be like this. And so I thought it was really important that to decide if that was what I wanted to do or not, I learned from someone who did work with eating disorders. I saw your post and you were like, I would love someone who works with teenagers and eating disorders. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And I clicked on your website because I think you linked it, or maybe I Googled you just to see. And I was like, oh my God, I was reading about all the work that you did and what you specialize in. And I was just saw what I wanted to be one day and what I hoped to become one day. So I was like, this is going to be an amazing person to learn from. And then once we spoke and actually got to know each other, and I talked to the other girls at the practice, I was like, please, this is literally the perfect situation that I'm looking for. And I was so blessed to learn from you.
When I was looking for someone to come and join, my practicing, it is a very small practicing, as you know, Nicole. So I was like, okay, I don't want to just get anyone, just to have a person there. It has to make a lot of sense. And when you sent me the message and I got your email with your resume, I was like, this person is perfect, everything that I need. You have this amazing balance between being so sweet and caring and being such a badass hard worker. So I was like, this is perfect. And I see myself a lot in you. And then when we started working together, the way you were conceptualizing the cases was very similar to the way I was seeing the cases. Mm-hmm. So from the get-go, I think it was an amazing, fit for both of us.
I was battling my own eating disorder, and it, as you know, takes some time to recover. So for, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years, I was really, my identity was that person with an eating disorder. I was the one in recovery, I was sick. And so in my mind, I internalized that as well, I'm not someone who can work with eating disorders because I'm the one with the eating disorder. Even though I didn't have one anymore, I still kind of held on to that identity. And right away, you just kind of normalized for me, oh, that's great. Sharing with me that, yeah, a lot of people in the eating disorder field have had eating disorders. That's what makes you so good at it. And then also being able to help me frame it in a way where my experience can be this, asset that I have when working with clients. That's something that you taught me that really helps me in my work with them and also in my own identity. You were saying, being able to think of myself now as yes, I'm someone who had an eating disorder, and I'm a therapist who specializes in treating eating disorders, right? That's part of my identity now too. So it goes both ways, and it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yes. When I decided to come to this country, the first obstacle that I encountered was the lack of validation with the degree that I had. So I had to go back to do my master's, and it was a very humble process. I didn't speak English, so I was like, okay, at least I will get to know the language. I also noticed some of the differences between my skin color and the accent, and being kind of judged by people based on that, which is something I didn't experience when I was in Brazil, because it's such a diverse country. You don't have this self-awareness of the color of your skin or the way we speak. Where do I find my confidence? I cannot rely to the old things that I was relying when I was in Brazil, my family or people that I knew. So my kind of my safety blanket was taken. I didn't know anyone. I have a big accent. My skin color is different than most people. So where can I rely? I was like, okay, let's just keep going and trying to like really step into the knowledge, stepping into the skills. And I feel like what helps me, especially with clients right now, and especially with you guys in the group practicing, is really trying to go beyond the preconception notion of what someone looks like, what are they, right? So I don't know who this person is as a client or as a clinician based on how they are, what they look like, where they are from. Let me go underneath, because that's kind of like such a rich experience and no one knows what everyone goes through.
Yeah, I feel like that was very valuable for me to learn from, right? And so being able to take that mindset, because I had moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and having you like understand that feeling of, you know, being so far away from like family and your support system. And I felt like in a way you became my support system, because you were there to like check on and make sure I was doing okay. And
right? Yeah. And I think that's the energy that not only we put with ourselves, but with the clients. Yeah. Like we get each other, we are here for each other, we have that support, and that makes us better clinicians, right? More solid. Mm-hmm. I first started my private practicing in 2012 when I became licensed. My first son, my eldest, he was 1. And then I wanted to really be present. I was working, before I got my license, I was working as a therapist in an eating disorder treatment center, and I worked there my whole pregnancy. And then when, you know, my son was born, I said, I'm not going on a maternity leave, I'm quitting, I'm not going to have this lifestyle. And I wanted to be with him as much as possible, but I wanted to nurture my love to be a therapist. So I wanted to make sure like, okay, I still want to see clients. And that's when I started doing my private practicing on the side. And then I became pregnant again. And I was like, okay, this is perfect. I see a few clients, I'm pregnant, I have a toddler. So that's kind of like private practicing gave me the permission to be a mom and a therapist and to make everything work.
You know, I start looking forward to like hopefully having a family and having kids of my own in a few years. And so to be able to like see somebody who's doing it all, like having the exact career that I want and being such a wonderful mom who shows up to, like you said, you're going to a soccer tournament this weekend, like you go to your kids' soccer games. I'm on the phone with you sometimes and you're like, oh, I'm on my way to pick them up, or I'll call you back in 10 minutes. Like my son's coming out of school, I have to get him, you know, taking them to appointments and doing all of that stuff and being able to like hold space for that role, and then also seeing what you do as a career woman and as a mentor and as, you know, a clinician is exactly what I want to do with my life. And so it's great to see that, because then it also tells me like, okay, that is possible.
Women in this country, in this world now, we have to hold a lot of different roles. We don't have to, we want to, right? Yeah. So we want to hold a lot of different roles, and we don't want to jeopardize one of the other. But we have to make sure there is balance, right? Like if I'm just being a mom and I really love my career and I'm not giving time for that, I'm not the best mom that my kids can have, right? And they can tell.
But I also just became licensed, so I'm like, I want to work, I want to get clients, I want to focus on my career. And you really helped me hold that space to do both and to see that like both are equally as important and it's possible to do it all.